question. Do daycares and day camps have to follow IEPs? You would assume so because, well, they take care of children. And if a child has an IEP, then obviously they have to follow it, right? Well, the answer might surprise you, which is why we're going to be talking about it today. Today's lesson, daycares and special ed. Recently, a coworker of mine had asked me, do daycares have to follow IEPs? And that's a good question. And the truth is that some institutions do have to follow, some institutions don't. So what institutions must follow IEPs? Well, public school districts. Any school district that gets money from the state or federal government must follow IEPs, even if it's a charter school. State and local agencies. If any state-run school or local agency-run school is in charge of a school and those students in that school have IEPs, they must follow the IEP. And then hospital or residential facilities. This is more like places like Daymar, where the residential facilities for individuals that require round-the-clock service and support. These institutions, they do have to follow IEPs. And once the child reaches the age of 22, then it transitions to a 504, where they still have to provide them with some level of support. But what institutions do not have to follow IEPs? Well, colleges and universities. They don't fall under the same aspect as public schools, even if a student going into college is still 18 or 19, because IEPs don't phase out until the child turns 22. But if you go into college at 18 or 19, you still have an IEP, but colleges and universities don't necessarily have to follow those. The same goes for parent-chosen private schools. On IEPs, there's a question. Does the parent reject FAPE? And FAPE stands for Free and Appropriate Public Education. If a parent decides to send their child to a private school, then the private school doesn't have to follow the IEP. They still have to provide services in some form or some manner, but they can do that through their own processes. And then daycares and day camps. Unless the daycare or day camp is run through public school agencies, they don't necessarily have to follow IEPs. But why is that? Why do daycares and day camps not have to follow IEPs? Well, because they're not state-run agencies. Even though they may get some funding from the state, they're not an educational institution technically. And so because they're not, they don't have to follow the IEP. But that doesn't mean that your child can't get services and support, because even though they may not fall under IDEA, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, they do fall under ADA, Americans with Disability Act, which means that all agencies, whether it's a daycare, day camp, or some work environment, must provide some level of support or accommodation to the child or to the individual. And so for daycares and day camps, they need to follow the ADA. That means that they have to provide some level of support to your child. So how to ensure your child still receives support? There are a couple of things that you can do. The first is still provide the IEP or a modified version of it, such as an IEP at a glance, so that the daycare workers or day camp workers can see what types of accommodations might help your child. And then if the child has any behavioral issues or interventions outlined in a behavioral plan, make sure to share that as well. Because although the staff is not required to follow the IEP to a T, they are required to provide accommodations, and the IEP can help identify which accommodations work best for the child. And some of these daycares and day camp staff would really appreciate an IEP or a 504 because it would help outline what types of services and supports would best benefit your child and make their time there more beneficial. Now, if you liked what you saw, you learned something new, or you're new to the channel, please click that like button. And if you want updates on future videos, feel free to click the subscribe button and ring the bell for updates on future videos. And as always, if there's a question or comment about today's video, or there's a particular topic in special ed that you would like me to cover, by all means, drop a line in the comments section and I'll be happy to cover it. And until next time, class dismissed.